particular industries or sectors where you feel that mismatch is at its worst? Are there particular areas of the economy that are more vulnerable for those reasons?
It's an interesting question. I mean, there are characteristic types of organisations, industries that are generally more mature. Financial services, for obvious reasons. Telecommunications and critical national infrastructure, again, for obvious reasons. So you can make those generalisations, and the counter argument is also true. So retail organisations, manufacturing organisations. Public sector, particularly local government, tend to be less mature, but for every generalisation, there are always exceptions. Always exceptions, yes. So you need to be quite careful about that.
It's less around the sector, it's more around the maturity of the organisation and the resources they have available, I think, in terms of how secure is secure. A lot of it comes back to your earlier point at the start of the panel around, it depends on how many resources, how much revenue they've got to be able to invest.
That's usually the defining factor, is how much do they want to spend on it.
So they might be personally affected, perhaps in a previous company or something like that, because they may bring a lot of security culture with them as a result.
You mentioned earlier the arrival of GDPR. Has that changed attitudes? Has it changed understanding, behaviour?
I think it's been the bane of a lot of organisations.
Everyone's groaning.
But one of the things it has done, in my opinion, is raised the awareness, and that's one of the things that you were able to actually start that dialogue at board level, because executive members and board members were reading in the papers about this horrendous thing that was coming into law, that was coming into effect, and they were going to be fined this much percentage of their revenue, and then suddenly it became a reality for them. So that actually allowed that dialogue to begin.
It's a really interesting space, because when GDPR first came in, I worked as an interim, much like Mark here and Thom, and I thought I'd go out and get qualified. So I went out and qualified as a certified GDPR practitioner and a certified data protection officer. I did all of that stuff, and the number of calls I've had for that service since I qualified, I can't
made your money back then.
So I haven't got the cost of the courses back. Now, whether that's reflective or not, I don't know, but it would seem to be, because I get plenty of work from cybersecurity, but very little from GDPR as a.
But I think that was part of the problem was the hype. It was a bit like the Y2K bug. I mean, there was always May 25th is the day. It's going to be. Zombies will rise from the graves on May 26th, etc. All that sort of thing. Nothing really happened. There are some countries where it's been used more effectively than others. I think Germany, Spain and France have got the highest number of actual actions as a result, brought through the GDPR regulation, GDP regulation. But over here, it's been a bit of a damp squib. And part of that, I think, is the underfunding of the ICO. I think there's a hype, so when the BA breach happened, there was big hype, they're going to be fined so many millions of pounds. And actually, it was an intention to fine, and BA can then respond. So the massive hype around it, but with nothing actually happening, has meant that people are like, we'll just wait.
And there are firms that are completely ignoring the
some people,
when they do get fined. So,
absolutely.
It's
I'd say
an evolving kind of space.
Yeah, so it's brilliant now, so that you've got companies that will focus on any projects that have got PII involved. But there's an awful lot of projects that you do, a lot of technologies and things that you put in place that don't. So what you see is the focus is the data going to be protected? Is there PII? No. Okay, backseat. And then suddenly you don't hear about that project until the very end. So I would argue that, it's helped to increase the focus with regards to data, and that is obviously important, particularly if you're collecting data of the public. But what about your other projects that you're doing and the other technologies? What about actual cyber security as opposed to the data protection? And that's kind of what worries me. So now if there's a breach or if we're doing any of our cyber exercises, the first question is the viewer data okay? Is the public data okay? Yeah, it is. But what about the other things? What about the firewalls and everything else? Are we patching those? Are you giving us the sufficient downtime so that we can keep those secure? We have a great, we've got GDPR, we had data protection that went through a number of reviews throughout my career, and yet we've still got the Computer Misuse Act, which is about as good as a stone tablet. It's, it means nothing in these days. It's very, very difficult to implement or to back up. So you chat to people about, sharing of passwords and doing some of the bad habits that they've picked up once they've passed their driving test. but you've got nothing to fall back on to explain to them why they shouldn't be doing it. When you sit in a room with them during their inductions or during your presentations, if you can get into the departmental meetings and you're explaining it, and as far as they're concerned, that's just the CISO, that's just that guy, he just wants to do it because he's trying to build his empire. It doesn't matter because you've got no legislation to fall back on. You can't go, if you share your passwords and you are impersonating another user, you could go to jail. They just laugh you out of the room.